A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host, Maz, and this is another episode of Ramadan Is Young. I'd like to begin with a dua from an old scholar. He said, Walhamdulillahi alladhi ja'ala min tilka subul ash-shahr. Shahr Ramadan, shahr siyam, wa shahr al-islam, wa shahr al-tahur, wa shahr al-tamhis, wa shahr al-qiyam. الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. And this translated means, and praise belongs to Allah, who appointed among those roads His month, the month of Ramadan, the month of fasting, the month of submission, the month of purity, and the month of putting to test, and the month of standing in prayer, in which the Qur'an was sent down as a guidance to the people, and as a clear sign of guidance and the distinguisher between what is right and what is wrong. And I begin that, that is from a dua that Zain Abideen used to recite, the great-grandson of the Prophet in welcoming Ramadan. So as we welcome this, as this is our first day. And going right into it, some of our viewers, commented on the first episode as to the name. Why is the program called Ramadan Is Young? Because, and we said in the beginning that this program is geared towards, Muslims, especially young Muslims in the West. And so as such, that's our target-based audience. But at the same time, we discuss a lot of general points, and everybody is more than welcome to get into the discussion. And the website is there, Raw TV. And you can always email me at maz@rawtv. And so I encourage you to, take it in that light. That that was one of the key points. And another key point you have to recall is that a lot of us tend to basically have this sort of misnotion that we're young now, enjoy life, enjoy the dunya, and then when we get old, we're worried about the deen. And so this is something that is not exactly on point, because number one, you don't know if you're going to be alive. You're here one day and you're not the next. And that's this type of assumption that somehow we're going to be here tomorrow. This is one of the biggest notions one can have. Allah has written for you whatever He's written for you, and we don't know if tomorrow is written or the next breath is written. And so, get on to the issue of Ramadan now. And the Prophet ﷺ also describes that Allah likes the deeds that are done in succession, not like, oh, one time and then that's it and shoot. So one time in our old age and then that's it. And we tend to, have this type of mentality that, oh, we're going to just do this one time. We're a Friday prayer Muslims. We go to the masjid on Friday only, one time. And so this type of, understanding is not proper in the deen itself. And if you don't put something into practice now, there's no way you're going to put it in later. And who knows if there is even going to be a later. So that's why Ramadan is young. And it is for us to get on top of the ball now, and not later. Going on to the next issue that I wanted to just interestingly cover is on the aspect of Ramadan itself, the meaning of the term. And I always enjoy doing this because it gives us such a rich understanding of what the term means. In Arabic, all Arabic terms can be broken down to triliteral roots, or three-letter root verbs. And these root verbs help us understand what the term means. So in Ramadan, it comes from the root word, surprisingly, called Ramida. And Ramida means to be scorching or to be burnt out. And, especially with the summer, it rings a bell, right? So that, not only in that context, but in a deeper context, we find that Ramadan is a spiritual burning of the impurities, not just spiritually, but physical as well. We're burning that excess impurities within our bodies at the same time. And there's a lot of medical benefits, in fasting as well. And intellectually, we're purifying our minds. So this is kind of like our body burning into the impurities away from a more pure state. Imam Ghazali refers to this in one of his famous books, Ihya Ulumuddin, The Revivification of Sciences. He refers to an example of gold, and how gold, you have to burn gold to take away all the impurities away, and you get left with gold. So this aspect of burning, which is like pressure, which is heat, which is hardship, and then out of that you get gold. And we can only ask Allah to do the same for us, and let Ramadan, this Ramadan, and the Ramadans afterwards be that type of experience as a purification, because gold in itself can continuously be purified from 99% to 99.9% and 99.99%. And what's very interesting is each time it reaches those marks, and you can look at the gold, those of you know about gold, the value of it exponentially increases. And in that light, you can reflect on it, that we're getting closer and closer to Allah. And inshallah, you know, may Allah give us that state and position where we become what He calls in the Qur'an the Muqarrabun, those who are close to Him, the close ones, the foremost. And so on that point, I'd like to say, you know, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he reminds us that, you know, take advantage of your youth before old age. So continuing forth, you know, into the questions, we received a few questions from our viewers, and I'm going to entertain one, two of them. One viewer asked if, you know, during this month in the summer, you know, we're dealing with dehydration and water, and if it ever comes to an emergency, we're allowed to drink water. This is a very important question. You know, we are in the months of summer, and there's intense heat, and already there has been many deaths throughout the world, just on a normal basis, let alone without people fasting. One thing Islam is very clear cut about is that Islam does not support suicide or harming of the body. And so if there is a medical reason that requires a person to drink water or to take in food, it's life-threatening, then of course, you know, you have to do it. And in fact, Islam preaches that. And so we also need to understand is that this doesn't mean, oh, I'm dying of thirst and I need some water. No, not for people like that. A serious medical situation where a person is getting nausea, is starting to faint, then it becomes serious. And of course, you are entitled to break your fast and drink the water that's necessary, or if it has to do with food. That's why they say about diabetic people, if you cannot control your diabetes, you should not be fasting. And if you can, it's okay, then you can do it. And it's all about the control element. And so there's no unnecessary hardship. You know, Islam, like I said in the last episode, is made to be easy for the people, not hard. And that's very important. And so taking that into light, again, do not come up with excuses for yourself and, like I said, fake something and say, oh, I need water because I'm thirsty. No, that's not the point. The point is, if you're reaching to a life-threatening point, then at that point you can intake water. And in fact, Islam commands you to do so, because the body has rights. And there's certain ways. And then, of course, you can make up your day of fast at a later point, as soon as possible. Another viewer had asked a question about the idea in the prayer time schedule. We have two timings. One is for Fajr, and another one is for the sunrise. Which one is the one that starts the fasting time period? This is actually a very important question. And I think a lot of people misunderstand what these two different time periods are. And I noticed to be a major dispute with some people because there's a misunderstanding. And one of the most important things is, when it says Fajr, it doesn't mean that by that time it's going to be Fajr. Fajr is actually by the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet ﷺ had legislated according to Islam, which is according to at what position the sun is. And that is how we set our time. The time chart is a basically crutch for people who, you know, for laymen, for people who don't have the knowledge to do this. The scholars, the ulama, majority of them have said you can use this as a substitute. But understand this, the actual time is actually observed through where the sun is and what position it is in the sky. And so as such, I want that point to be noted quite well. So there, you know, so you realize, you know, this time chart, it's just a helper, you know, for us to get there, for people who don't really understand how to do it. And majority of people, they do tend to it, and there's nothing wrong to it, but is to keep conscious of that point. And so as such, in the column that it says about Fajr, that is indicating when Fajr is coming in. That is when, the light is being reflected in the atmosphere, and you begin to see that shade of white. And it's the second shade, not the first, because there's another one that's a reflection off the atmosphere, and there's one that is actually the sun coming around the corner. And the sunrise is actually when the sun physically breaks the horizon. So there's a difference between that. And they put that sunrise in that time chart to tell you when Fajr is finishing. So the fasting actually begins from when Fajr comes in, not when it is finishing. And that is a very important point, often misunderstood by people, is that sunrise is the end point of Fajr. So the beginning point of Fajr is when fasting begins. And the same way, when you come to breaking the fast, you don't break the fast at the end of Maghrib time, when you can pray Maghrib at the last moment. No, you do it when Maghrib begins. And that is how the time is set. So you're going by the number on the Fajr, the time chart. If it says Fajr, that is the time that you begin your fast. And the sunrise is just an indicator of when Fajr ends, when you can pray Fajr up to. So distinguish between the two of them and begin your fast at the appropriate time and break it at the appropriate time. On that note, I'm signing off. I hope to catch you again tomorrow for another episode of Ramadan is Young. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.